Control F. UFO. Right click. Rename.
Hey. Just make sure everybody can hear me. Okay. Well, thank you so much for those who have joined. I was actually pretty excited. Get a little closer. I was actually pretty excited about today's topic. Should women respect men who make less than them? Yeah, I'm just gonna give me just 1 second to come up. Catching you live. Thank you for those who've been able to catch me live. I'm excited. I'm excited about today's topic. So, just to hop right into it, first of all, I want to thank you for those who have joined. Please get the likes up. Please tag anybody who you think may want to participate in this conversation, may find it interesting. This is a topic that I've seen really trending lately over the last few weeks. And so I thought I wanted to give my perspective on it. But like I said, if you think somebody is going to find this interesting, please let them know. Also, if you want to support this channel, if you want to see more content from me, you can find me on Cash App or Venmo, Shay Sharday. I will have it up here. And then later on, once I kind of share my perspective, we can have people call in and talk about what they want to talk about or share their side of the thing. So just to get right into it. So should women respect men who make less than them? As I mentioned, I've seen this topic going over and over and over again. And there's this whole idea of, leveling up, women, I guess, marrying hypergamously, right? Or finding a guy that is on their level. And many of you guys, I'm sure, are Kevin Samuels fans or have catched his shows. And you know that the entire premise of his show is basically women of all ages and backgrounds and ethnicities calling in and saying that they want men who are high value, essentially men who are well into making six figures, have a social network, are well respected from other high value men. They want to be in that social class. They want that status. And so the entire show is based upon that. And like I said, we see women of all classes, races, ages coming in with this idea of like, I deserve a high value man. So it's been really interesting because a part of that, what I've also noticed in the space is that there is a growing community and a growing topic of hypergamy, which is basically telling women, hey, here is how you can date outside of your class, or here is how you can date, on your level. And essentially on your level, right, is women dating men who have the monetary background or have the kind of financial profile that they desire. So this is a growing topic. One of the things that I have found really disturbing, if I'm just being totally honest, is this whole idea of women not settling. Women not settling down or, lowering their standards. I mean, I hear this time and time again where it's like, hey, all women are 10s, all women are this, all women are that, and every woman deserves love, or every woman deserves fill in the blank. And I'm not one to say I think everyone can find love. Everyone should find love if they can. But the issue I'm having with this modern idea of hypergamy and women marrying up and out is because I feel like it's not really based upon reality. I was listening to a content creator not too long ago. She's very well respected in the space. And basically she was talking about how her personal perspective was how she would never date a man who made less than her. She would only date somebody who made more than her. And that wasn't a suggestion, or that wasn't a desire, that was a standard. And I know it's very common to hear a woman carry this as, my standard is that he has to make more than me. He has to be on this level or else he's not on my level. And honestly, I just think that's just completely and totally delusional. I don't even know how else to say it. I think that whole idea and concept is based in just total delusion. Because first of all, what is not ever talked about is the fact that most people in America today are struggling. I mean, struggling. We're still in a pandemic. I mean, I'm in California now and they're talking about going back to masks. We're hearing about, the Great Reset. I mean, women of all ethnicities make less than men. And so this whole idea of like, oh, I have to marry outside of my class, or else this guy isn't on my level. He has to come to my standard. I'm like, okay, let's look at the stats. If we just look at what is going on right now, first of all, women across all ethnicities, all ages are pretty much struggling because your average American is struggling. I saw a report not too long ago, I think it was by CBS, and they were talking about how waitresses, I think 43 of the states basically have some form of a loophole where they don't have to pay waitresses or waiters minimum wage. And so they were documenting a few different families who were making like $2.13 an hour. And no, we're not talking about immigrants. We're talking about American citizens who are making $2.13 an hour in the United States. This is a documentary, like this posted, I think, a couple of months ago. Like this was on CBS. $2.13 an hour. And what they were actually exposing was that because companies have been able to find a loophole, this is impacting primarily women, primarily minority women, and primarily single mothers. It's these women in the service sector who are making $2.13 an hour. And so again, let me say, most women, it don't matter where you're at, it doesn't matter what ethnicity, it doesn't matter your religious background, it doesn't even matter your age. A lot of women right now are not living this luxury, hypergamous level of lifestyle because we are in a pandemic still, where people have lost jobs and they are still recovering. And so I'm really having a hard time because I feel like as the economy gets tougher and tougher, and as people struggle more, this idea, these expectations get more and more fantastical. And I'm like, is this stuff based on reality? Are we aware that people are struggling, that people are just trying to make ends meet? And for you to disqualify a person because they're not making 6 or 7 figures in a time when the economy is going through such a turnaround, to me, I'm just like, what reality, what planet are you on? So there's a few stats I want to pull up that actually kind of go into this a little bit deeper. Let me see if I can find it. You say, thank you. It's the stats that the average family income is 80K, but they want a man who makes more than him. Just stats. Yeah, 80K. I don't know why I thought it was closer to 60K, but even if we do say that, we know that the average is based upon the people who make, that's including the billionaires. So the billionaires like, the Jeff Bezos, the Bill Gates, those multi-millionaires, they're included in this average. So I think if we look like at the median income, we know it's even lower because taking all those huge billionaires that are really, really pushing up that average, the majority of people in America, they're not making over 6 figures. They're just not. Okay, so let me see if I can find this, because I was looking into this yesterday, and it was alarming to me. I'm like, whoa, the reality of this is pretty, not only is this pretty sparse, but I'm like, why aren't we talking about this? Why not actually have a real conversation as to what's going on in the economy, and how this is impacting people, and how we can work together with other people versus creating these high, unrealistic expectations that nobody's ever going to meet during a pandemic, and then just setting yourself up for failure. So I'm going to pull it up right now. Also, if you guys like what you see, please get the likes up. Please tag anybody on this who you think may like it. You can find me on Cash App and Venmo Shay Sharday. If you like the content and you want to see more content, I'm really going to need your support in order to maintain this long term. So please find me on Cash App and Venmo. Okay. Let me see. Okay. All right. So this is from a report that I read recently. Let me put this right over here. Pull up my stats. This is a report that I read recently from the Bureau of Labor and Statistics. So it said, and so they actually just released a report this month. I think it was like last week they released a report, and they were reporting on the average quarterly income of just people across the entire spectrum. So they said, the median weekly earnings of full-time workers were $900 in the second quarter of 2021. This is including everyone. This is men, women, white women, black men, Asian women, like it was including everyone. So the median weekly earnings of full-time workers were $990 in the second quarter of 2021. Now, it said that the woman's median income, this is including all women, was $899, whereas the men's median income, including all men, was $1,094. In all ethnicities, every single ethnicity, including Black people, men on average made more than women. They made more than women. So what this means is that if you are a woman and you are dating within your class, you are technically dating hypergamously because you are dating a man that makes more than you because, 9 times out of 10, most times, men make more than women. It is what it is. And there's different reasons for that. Some people say it's gender wage gap. A lot of times there's also, the idea of the kind of jobs that are taking. You have a lot of women doing more service jobs, which tend to be paid less. You have men doing jobs that tend to, build more structures like engineering, going on oil rigs, construction, different jobs that require a level of danger that get paid more. And so there's different reasons as to why, but all in all, men are making more than women. With that said, let's see. So if we want to boil this down by ethnicity, white women earned 82.6% of what white men made. Black women earned 85.1% of what black men made. So that basically means of $1, of every $1 made, a Black woman made 85%, comparatively speaking. And so again, this whole idea of, okay, Black women are outpacing Black men. Black women, they're, creating more businesses. They are creating more jobs. They are buying more homes. They are up over here, leveling up, and Black men are down here. They just can't make it. The reality is that that's not the reality. The Bureau of Labor Statistics, they have no reason to lie. They have no reason to be biased towards anyone. And we're looking at the stats. That's just simply not true. One of the things that I found actually incredibly interesting is the different times that I have watched the Kevin Samuel show, and I've seen, or just his show, watched his page or his live, and I've seen different women come on or call on, and there's this consistent theme of all of them being high earners or, well on in their career or successful in their career. And I mean, I've seen this over and over and over again, and I'm thinking, okay, so either he is attracting the most successful woman in the entire US, or there's just some women who are lying. They're just completely lying, either or. But if you look at the numbers, yeah, and still 85 women, Black women make 85 cents of every $1 that Black men make. And so what does that mean? Again, that means that if you are a woman, to date or marry a man in your class is essentially to date and marry hypergamously because they make more money than you. It is what it is. If we want to look at, let's see, their weekly earnings, it says that Black women were bringing in, this is now granted, this was like during the pandemic, Black women on average were bringing in about $277 a week, and Black men were bringing in about $326. So again, like across all ethnicities, across all races, across all things, men are making more than women. This shouldn't matter, honestly. This shouldn't matter. This whole idea of I'm not going to settle in a man that doesn't make as much as me. To me, that just reveals a materialistic mindset. It just reveals a mindset that doesn't actually understand the purpose or the value of a man. A man is just not a walking ATM. And a woman isn't just a baby factory. It's like there is a value that a man and a woman bring in a relationship that is far beyond just what they can produce monetarily. So, I hate to ask such a silly question, but I bring it up because this has been a big topic of conversation. And there is a large sector of women who feel like to date or marry a man who makes less than them is to settle. And the reality is, like I said, in most cases, you're not going to find a man that makes less than you if you're within your class, because most men at this, like I said, in all race and all ethnicities, are just making more than women. So just start there. Secondly, it's like, what else is the value that a man brings? What else? It's not, like I said, just monetarily. There's, there's leadership. There's, the balancing of the feminine versus the masculine. You know what I mean? There's having two parents to raise kids. There's providing structure. There's more value that a man brings than just having money. And so I think it's a very one-sided and a very short-sighted approach to just say, oh, well, I need a man that's making this amount of money. Well, that also shows women who have that kind of standard. Generally, what it shows me is that they actually haven't grown up around money, or that they haven't grown up in those quote unquote high value relationships. Because if you have, or if you did grow up well to do, then it's not peaches and cream. It's not just like, oh, we make this amount of money or nothing else. That there is an other side of being with somebody who's considered high value, or there's the other side with being with a man who has the pressure to make a certain amount of money. And so a lot of times I hear people just putting out all these theories like, oh, my standard is to date a man that makes this. But it's like, where did that standard come from? You actually don't have real life experience to even know whether or not that's what you want. And so, again, I hear all this chatter and I hear all this talking about standards and, women should not settle and they need to date a guy that does this or that, and women are outpacing men and all this stuff that's just, like I said, not based in reality. And if we actually look at what's going on right now, people by and large are just trying to figure it out. People are just trying to survive. And there's, like I said, there's nothing wrong. There's nothing wrong with not having 7 figures. That doesn't mean that you're less valuable as an individual. But I think it's incredibly damaging to sell women the lie that they're just all supposed to just have this fantasy fairy tale lifestyle when we live in a nation where a lot of people are just trying to figure out how to pay their rent. That is the reality. So there's another thing that I saw. There's another report that I saw recently. It was from, Times Magazine. And I actually think I ran across this as I was listening to BGS. But I found it really interesting. And I was like, this is absolutely crazy. Why do I not hear this? For a lot of these content creators that have a strong female following, why don't I hear them also talking about the reality of what's actually happening with many of these women? The reality that there are a lot of single mothers who are struggling. So this is Times Magazine. I'm going to read through some of what they wrote recently. It said, America could soon face a wave of single moms being evicted. A simple solution exists that could help them. A simple solution, but that doesn't mean it's going to happen. Granted, this was posted back in May, but we know this eviction moratorium, it's like kind of rolling out over the next few months. So it says, okay, it will be the true measure of our society and the predictor of our future. Whenever the CDC moratorium on eviction expires, which is set to do next month, millions of people could find themselves homeless. And perhaps most heavily represented among those millions are single mothers and their kids. These mothers are not numbers, they are people. People with names and narratives, with passions and ambitions. Data can tell us who was unemployed, who was on welfare, who was at risk of eviction, who was homeless, but it doesn't tell us a person's joy and traumas. Data is an aggregate of lives distilled in cold figures devoid of humanity, of narrative, of individuality. And yet the statistics of this pandemic year tell a staggering story. Women's labor force participation has dropped to 57% since the pandemic began. And of all groups of parents, single moms have been the biggest drop in the proportion who are employed. So I think what it's saying is like single mothers are the most impacted, have been some of the most impacted during this pandemic. And as a rent moratorium, as that thing wraps up, they are the ones who are going to be the most likely to be on the street. This is a very sobering reality. And so again, the reason I think it is very, 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 very unhealthy and also very dangerous to sell women this fairy tale lifestyle of this man needs to be making this money way up here or else he's not on my level is because it's getting to the point where marriage for certain people is going to be a financial necessity. And of course you have men out there who are just like, look, I'm not marrying because I don't want to just be just a credit card. And they shouldn't. I don't think you should ever marry anyone who just sees you as a walking ATM. But I also don't think that that there's ever a honest conversation about the real life implications of what it means to be a single mother or to work in this pandemic or work in the society period and do it by yourself. That is not easy. It is not easy. And as we see Times Magazine reporting, it's saying 50%, what is it? Women's participation in the workforce, it went down 57% during the pandemic. 57%. That is a big drop. Also, so first of all, thank you for those who have gotten on. Please get the likes up. Please tag people who you think are going to find this interesting. Also, if you really want to, if you really like this show, please send in your love. Please send in your love, because I'm going to need your support in order to be able to do this more long term. We know that there is a ton of content out there. There's a lot of women out there, unfortunately, who are spewing things that are not helpful. So if you want to see this kind of content, this kind of messages being promoted, I'm going to need your support. So please, you can find me on Cash App. You can find me on Venmo, Shay Charday. Also send in any super chats. And like I said, get the message out there, because I want to hear from you guys. But for those of you who are just tuned in, we're talking about the question of, should a woman respect men who make less than them? And as we've discussed up to this point, for a woman to date in her class, she is naturally dating hypergamously, because the stats show that men across all races and all ethnicities make more than women. They do. For African Americans specifically, for every $1 that a man made, women made 85%. And this is according to the Bureau of Labor Statistics. And this was last quarter. So last quarter, Black men made $1 and Black women made 85 cents of that dollar. And so again, to date within your class is to date hypergamously. So it is not wise in my personal opinion, it is not wise for women to just bypass somebody who maybe a good guy who may be her neighbor, or the nice guy that she may be meeting in a Bible study, or somebody who maybe doesn't have the sexiest job or isn't the biggest entrepreneur. And so she doesn't see that he's good enough. It's not wise for you to pass by those men, because they have value and because they have meaning, and because, first of all, most people marry within their class. It is what it is. And second of all, if you don't do that, what's awaiting some of us is a very difficult financial situation, as Times is reporting. So I'm going to go back into this article. So it says here, pandemic life with massive unemployment, Zoom schooling, and social isolation has brutalized no group as directly as a single mother's raising 15.76 million children. 15.76 million children being raised by single mothers who have been negatively impacted by the pandemic. Lost jobs mean no money for rent, at least with our miserly welfare system. By August of last year, 30 to 40 million people were already at risk of conviction. And researchers have found that having children is a significant risk factor. It didn't have to be this way. It still doesn't. For decades, researchers from the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development to Harvard have shown that vouchers providing rent payments are the most effective form of homeless prevention intervention. Families who receive vouchers are not only less likely to experience housing instability, they're also less likely to need foster care, and they're considerably less likely to experience domestic violence. Despite all this, Section 8 programs, which provide housing assistance to families, are severely underfunded. It's like basically what we're seeing is, again, and this is according to Times Magazine. This isn't just like some Joe Blow blog or whatever. This is Times, a pretty well-respected news source. And so they are saying, hey, single mothers have been negatively impacted. They're going to continue to be negatively impacted. And while the government has the resources to actually address this, it's most likely that they will not. And so, let's move on. Becomes possible. So it says, for the past decade, the number cited to end pre-COVID-19 homelessness was 20 billion. 20 billion. Now, according to the Urban Institute, it would take at least 50 billion to keep families stably housed during the looming eviction wave. This year alone, we will spend an estimated 934 billion on defense. Last year, during our previous crisis, Jeff Bezos' net worth gained 75 billion. He now has almost 200 billion. That's crazy. Elon Musk wealth rose 25 billion in a single day. Every year, with no end in sight, wealth consolidates and poverty expands. This is the apocalyptic physics of inequality in America. Now more than ever, we are defined by who we deem worthy of investment. As an economy as well as an ethical society, today we are failing ourselves on both accounts. That failure becomes increasingly villainous when you know simple solutions like housing vouchers exist to reverse the dire foundational crisis for poor Americans. So basically what this article, and like this sounds like it's an opinion blog, but basically what it's saying is that wealth is being made obviously by the top of the top, but the wealth disparity between the rich and the poor is getting wider and wider and wider, and the most impacted of that is single mothers. It is single mothers. So to sell this fantasy dream to single mothers who are the most vulnerable and at risk economically is really bad. It's especially bad when there might be men in their community, there might be men in their class who would give them a chance, who would work with them, who would love to be with them, and they turn them down. That is especially damaging because what that means is that they are put in a place where they're economically at risk. And there's a lot of talk of the Great Reset, and if that actually happens, how that it's going to, again, impact women more and take away even more jobs that are heavily female dominated. And what that's going to mean is what this article is predicting, which is more female homelessness and more female poverty. And we already see, again, that all across the board, men are generally making more than women. So even this whole idea, first off, from a statistical analysis of, okay, should women respect men who make less than them? 9 times out of 10, you're not going to find that. It's very rare that a woman is going to actually make more than her man, just by the nature of how this economy works, by the nature of the kinds of jobs that men versus women are taking, and just by the nature of actually what's going on in this economy. It's rare that you're going to find that. But even if you are in that situation, it does not mean that you're supposed to be disrespectful. One of my mentors, she, on paper makes more than her husband, but she accredits much of her success to her husband. She's told me, she's like, he's giving me ideas, he's giving me strategies that have helped me hit these numbers, because she's a sole person. And so she doesn't see it as, her money and, well, what's his money over there? She sees it as, hey, this is our money. My success is because of him. He's giving me guidance. He's giving me leadership. He's giving me spiritual fortitude. And that has helped me be successful in my job. And so this is a very successful woman. I interviewed her not too long ago. And so I know women who do that, and they still respect their man because they understand that a man is not just a walking ATM, that there's other value that he brings to the society other than just a wallet. But what's most damaging more than ever is to tell women that a man who makes less than this is not a value in their future and give him a time of day, especially when so many of these women and so many people in America in general are strictly struggling. And so I think there's a lot of people blowing smoke, a lot of people telling these theories and all these ideas on social media that have little to no actual, they just don't really have any fact to them. They're just their theories, their ideas, their fantasies, but they're not based in reality, because the numbers right now are staggering. People are struggling. Hardworking people are struggling. I mean, they just had a report come out where I think it was Frito-Lay's or whatever, where it was all these workers who went on strike. They had been working 150. They went 150 days, no break, 12-hour shifts. They didn't have weekends off. They didn't have any day off for 150 days. These are hardworking people who aren't making what Jeff Bezos has made. So just because someone isn't in 6 or 7 figures doesn't even mean that they're not working harder. It doesn't mean that they're not even doing their best. But we also have to know that we live in an economy that it's very competitive, and there are certain things that are rigged. It is what it is. So not to say that you can't improve yourself, but I think it's a very one-sided view of things to just say, oh, this person isn't here right now, therefore he's not of value. That I think is completely just devoid of all logic, and it's detrimental. It's especially detrimental to single mothers or people who find themselves in situations where they are incredibly vulnerable. These are just my thoughts. Thank you for those of you who have hopped on. If you find this of value, please get the likes up. Again, if you really want to show support to this channel, you can find me on Venmo or Cash App, Shay Sharday. But those are my thoughts. So I have a few minutes. Looks like I have a few minutes for some calls. If any of you guys are interested in sharing your perspective, let me see. I'm gonna put this up right now. I can do that. Let me figure that out. Wait, no, how do I do that? Okay. So if you guys want to join, if you guys want to let me know what you think, I'd love to hear from you. Do you think should women respect men who make less than them? Should they? Can they? Is it even possible? As I said, for some of you guys who recently joined in, my perspective is they absolutely should, because in most cases, men generally make more than women, period. That's just the way the economy works. But even apart from that, men actually provide more than just money in a family, in a relationship. And the fact that we've lost sight of that is to our detriment. And if we continue on this path, we're going to see homelessness, and we're going to see a lot of people struggling. We may see women be like, what's going on? What did I do wrong? And I hope that doesn't happen. I hope there's a turnaround. But it's not going to happen if we have this delusion. There's not going to happen if we have this delusion of women don't settle on a man that's not making at least 150K or who isn't some entrepreneurial business owner, as if all business owners make money out the gate. But that's a whole other conversation. So it looks like I have a few people on. Let's see. All right. Hey there. Can you hear me?
What's good?
How's
I know. I saw you came back from the wedding honeymoon. Must be wonderful. Was it great?
It was fantastic. I do have some more content to post. It's just a matter of time of me, compiling it. But yeah, I'm definitely going to share more about my experience in Zanzibar and just Africa in general. It was amazing.
Excellent. Does my sound good? Do you hear background? Do you want me to turn off anything?
I do hear a bit there.
That's the AC. Hold on a second.
Is it the AC? Okay. No worries.
All right.
Okay, let me.
All right.
Okay.
So, in regards to the subject of what is here or what is to come, I heard from other content creators and what is going to happen when the money really dries up. I want women to understand this and learn this well. The whole purpose of them creating, because feminism was created by men, facilitated by women, was to prepare America, women particularly, especially our women, that they are trying to have you push away of the necessities of a man.
Mm-hmm. Right.
As his wallet. And now we're finding now over 50-some years later, where how the economy is now and almost the brink of actual collapse.
Right.
That now they're going to have you fend for yourself without any serious aid. The rent, the unemployments, if it's still available, which I heard now is soon going to dry up because they borrow more money. You don't understand. This country borrows too much money and adds on to a national debt that's now pushing maybe 25 trillion now. I'm just giving the number.
Right.
This country cannot support and can't facilitate people, especially women in this country.
Right.
And if you notice personally, Charzay, when you go to Africa, they don't have none of these type of government assistance for women.
Mm-hmm.
That don't exist.
Right.
Why? Because they know the effects of having women be dependent on another system, without dependent on the men in the group. Regardless if they're able to provide it or not, or they don't run it. At the end of the day, you still need a man to get through life as a woman. Period. This is not no negotiation. Now, there are certain criteria that some that they make a certain amount of money, they might be fine. I said they might be fine. But if you look at it, that's a miserable existence.
Mm-hmm.
You want to live from 18 to almost 60 to almost to the end of life, knowing that you were never married or have any man that you could depend on or someone that you love or whatever you want to call it on for most of your life, but go around and enjoy the hot gorgeous summers, the bouncing off of phalluses. It's a miserable existence. And I tell most women, when it does happen, and it will, you're going to have to start reevaluate how this environment works, what you've been trained, and really take on consideration. We can go even further of what they do now to certain content creators now. And isn't it ironic they're doing this at the point where now the money's about to dry up? You ever notice this?
Yeah, no, it's a lot of it's a lot
So
of
people understand the game that's being played here. This is not no game. I want people to understand. This should be taken seriously.
right.
The main message this is just only giving you game right now to what is here and what's coming. I remember BJ's been saying this, and I never took him seriously for once. But when I look at overall where direction Black people are going,
Right.
it's not looking good.
No, I
So
hear you.
I'm not sure if you want to comment what I said or anything. If pushback, I said a lot.
Right. No, I hear you. Well, thank you so much for sharing. It looks like I have another person that's popping on. Yeah, thank
Okay.
you for letting me know your thoughts. I appreciate it.
I'll come back in soon.
Okay. All right. Yeah, so no, I think he, definitely hit on something there about many of us being told that we don't need men. Just the whole idea to me is just absolute. It's just absurd because it's like people need people, period. And, to your earlier point, this is not even a conversation in other cultures. This is not even a conversation in other, nations where people are just respected because they're adults, because they're human beings, and women know that they have value and men know that they have value because they're human beings. So it's like just the insanity of even these conversations to me just shows how far we have just condescended. But okay, looks like we have another caller joining in. Hey there.
Hey, how you doing, Miss?
Good. How are you?
I'm ready to get there, ma'am. I'm sorry, I'm a tow truck driver, so I just want to let you know what I'm going through. So I'm sorry.
No problem. I'll keep it quick. So, should women respect men who make less than them?
I would say yes. One thing, because women want to be more than baby makers and want to be more than looks and all this. I think it's not fair for them to want that and not understand a concept of a man. First off, I want to say congratulations to you getting married.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Second off, I want to say that I think it's sad that you don't have more women actively watching your channel. And third off, I'm glad that you do this. I'm sorry, I'm behind in technology, but I do want to be able to give you some money and what have you. But because when my daughters get older, I want them to watch women like you. We don't have any more Claire Huxtables out there. We don't have that kind of vibe out here, so the young ladies have something to look up to and look forward to, But,
right.
I think that is wrong, especially in the African American community, on how we're thinking, because for our whole existence, we've been godly like people. And being godly like people, it's not about looks with the women, and it's not about money with the men. It's about keeping bloodlines going on. And
Right.
God made sex to feel good to ensure that, and also put down a concept of love to make it enjoyable.
Right.
And we're killing the whole thing by trying to define every single aspect of life. We're killing it by thinking that we don't need one another. And
Right.
you can tell that our community, and I know we're on this level where we're not religious, we're more spiritual now, but we're killing the whole Adam and Eve concept. We lost what's going on. We lost what got us here. If you think about slavery, it was the man and the woman that got us here, but the number one thing that got us here was Black women. We wouldn't be here without Black women going through slavery. The Black woman was so strong, she carried the race on her back because the white male was oppressing us. And for the longest, women understood that. Black women understood that and had our backs. And it's like now that they have a little room and can make a little money and do what they want, it's almost like Black women are traitors. They're traitors to the race of African Americans. We're still in a serious battle that we have never won.
Mm-hmm.
We never won the battle. And so I don't understand why our community sees as if we have the luxury to make the moves and decisions on how we making moves and decisions.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's sad. I think it's dangerous. And not to make this a religious or biblical concept, but it already said this in different prophecies and different religions that it will come a time where one man will have 17 women. And for the longest, I used to always wonder, well, why is that? How would that happen? Well, you got to think. You feminize most of the men, so even though he's a man, he's not going to be out here and be able to hunt and defend and find a way to make it. Number two, your homosexuality, your gay men population is through the roof. Well, we know they're not. Why are we doing this to ourselves? I don't understand why we're doing this. If for women to judge a man on his finances, I always tell a woman, I come up in the era of the 80s. It doesn't matter how much money a person make, I can take it from him. If that man got $1 million and you valuing that man because of his money, I can take his money. The government can take his money. The money can inflate to where there's no value in it. Why would a woman that's not a prostitute think like a prostitute? If you're in the realm of checking a man for his pocket, then you're thinking like a prostitute. You're thinking like a stripper. You're thinking like hoes. Why would you do that to yourself? Why would you degrade yourself in such a manner? After women fall hard to be respected. So it's like the women who try to fight for certain things, it was all for nothing. I just feel that our people, all the stuff we went through as a people through time is all for nothing. And it's biblical. It says remove the men and keep the women and children for yourselves. It happened during Moses' time. It happened during slavery. It's going to happen again. Remove the men. The men are the only ones that can defend. The only ones that say no. Once you get rid of the men, where's your defense?
Right. Yeah. No, I agree.
I'm sorry, man. That bothers me because I got 3 daughters. And I'm like, damn, even if I raise them right, the men won't take them seriously due to the same reason why white males get so much hell, because we can't trust you, bro, because of your ancestors. And it's sad. We right there. It's like, even if women want to turn their ways around, do you actually think there's enough men, not feminized men, not gay men, to enough men that when things go bad, do you think they actually will put their life on the line for women who once turned them down? I don't understand where we headed as far as the women. And the value of a man is your comfort of safe. When I'm out here working and I don't come home on time, my lady tells me, man, my kids feel uncomfortable. She feels uncomfortable. Soon as I hit that door, a twinkle is in the eye. And then when I see that, I'll be like, man, I gotta survive. I gotta make it. I gotta push harder because they're relying on me.
Right.
And I remember when my father passed, I remember how cold the world felt. My mother was stuck with 4 boys. And I remember the stress level on my mother. And I wouldn't wish that on any women, you know? Right.
So yeah. So I appreciate you. No, I appreciate you calling in. Looks like I have some other people coming on, but I appreciate you calling in. I totally understand. You made some really interesting points. Some of them I think are worth other lives to begin with.
Yes, I'm so sorry because I'm sorry I don't normally be on like do all this, but I did it because I wanted to give you more topics or more things for you to think about, so you can bring to the sisters out there. So because there's other aspects I don't think that not only you or other people are not addressing. We as Black people are powerful beings without finances. We don't need finances to make it. We need one another. That's what makes us powerful. The money game is their game, and we're buying into their game, and we're losing. We're losing. Why we can't see that? I'm not saying don't get money, but I'm saying you can't trade your underlying. We love one another at one point. We really truly love. It's sad, man. It's not looking good, man. It's not looking good.
Right. No, I agree. Well, I appreciate you coming on. Like I said, this is definitely, a few other topics worth handling, but I appreciate you coming on, and you enjoy the rest of your drive. Be safe.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. All really good points. Again, I want to thank you for those of you who called in, who were, commenting, liking, He made some really good points. Actually, one thing I wanted to touch upon, I've heard this a lot too, which is that, Black women were the backbone of, society, especially during slavery and different things. And I do not disagree with that. Of course, many of us know strong Black women in our family. I have many of those myself. I think what's also been glossed over, though, is that it wasn't just Black women who were fighting and doing different things. Black men were doing the same thing in the time of slavery. Even it was Black men who were out there being abolitionists, literally waging warfare. What we're not told oftentimes is that there was literal warfare. There was little battles that were happening in different plantations. There was different organization that was happening where people were fighting. Like, we didn't become free just peacefully. Like, there was a lot of bloodshed that went into it, unfortunately, but there was. I mean, there were slave ships that didn't even make it over to America or to the Americas because they were taken over. People fought on the ship and they took it over and went back. And so I think a lot of times there's this idea pushed where it's just, men were just laying there being completely, just completely weak. And it was women who were taking up the arms and being the strong one. And it's like, no, we were actually working. People were working together. This was not just women were carrying the community or men were carrying the community. There is very much a joint effort. And so I think that is one of the reasons it's very detrimental for there to be such a clash or there to be so much dissension just in general. And this isn't just in African-American community. We see this in general, but I do feel like it's a lot more polarized. It's a lot more, just a lot more intense. So anyways, I'm going to wrap up. It looks like we're about an hour in. I want to thank everyone who has been here, who has, hopped on. I'll probably continue this conversation a little bit later on, but, to sum it up, my personal take on it is that, yes, women should and can absolutely respect men who make less than them. One, because they're human beings. I don't think respect should ever be based upon anything monetarily or anything tangible, period, because the fact that a person is alive means they deserve respect. But secondly, if we just look at the stats, women are making less than men across all ethnicities, across all races, across all backgrounds. Women are making less than men. The Bureau of Labor Statistics reported on that. Single mothers right now are some of the most impacted financially because of the pandemic. Many of them, it's reported within times, will be on the street, will be homeless. This is some of their predictions. And so I'm not trying to preach doom and gloom. But what I am saying is that if we pump women with unrealistic expectations or unhealthy ideas about relationship, and they pass by opportunities, good opportunities with men in their community or in their circle who they could actually build a happy life with, or build a life with that's going to help them weather the storm. If we don't give them those tools to make right decisions, and then they pass by all these guys, then they're going to have to weather this life, this economy alone. And some women are able to do that, but many women are not. Many women are not. And it's interesting because in other societies, we see these conversations don't even happen. Men and women know that they need each other. They operate like that. They work like that. And it's not such a battle. And so, my thought is, it's not only is it just, I think just for a personal moral reason, you should always respect any individual, whether that man makes less than you or more than you. But secondly, again, most men make more than you. So I think it's a total myth. I think it's mostly a myth that women are outpacing men. Women are making more than men. Like, where? Because based upon the stats, that's simply not happening. So let's just completely debunk that myth. Third, the value that a man offers, or the value that happens when a man and woman comes together, it's just not monetary. It's just not money. When a man and woman can work together to raise a family, that's a beautiful thing. The masculine and the feminine coming together, that is a beautiful thing. And so I think it's very one-sided to just look at this as men are just a pocketbook or they are just the resource for me getting into a better social class. That's very one-sided, and I think rather narcissistic, and it's unhelpful. And in a society where most people are struggling, people who work hard, by the way, people who are working multiple jobs, sometimes working 40 hours and then going Uber and Lyft, people who are struggling, it is very damaging. I think not only psychologically, but I think on a practical level, it is damaging to sell this fantasy lie to women and say you cannot or you should not settle on a man that's making less than this when most people aren't making that. And when the economy is such right now that we see at times literally saying the rich are getting richer, the poor are getting poorer, and this is the economy that we're living in. And so people are working hard, they're doing their part, and it's just things are not necessarily working on their level. It does not mean that you can't get better. It doesn't mean that you can't work and change your financial situation. But I think sometimes we're just sold this fantasy. And if nothing else, I hope this causes somebody to think. I hope this causes maybe a woman to think and say, hey, have I been believing this lie that's not true? Because if you actually go outside, if you get off of social media, get off the news feed, and you go outside and you see what's happening to the economy, what's happening to the world, and we see that not everyone is leveling up or living this luxurious life, or they're flying to Dubai every week, or they're going over here, or they're doing that. And God only knows what they're doing to have those experiences. Then we can be more grounded, and we may actually have more respect and more honor and more consideration for the people that we meet in our community, for the men that we meet in our community that are around us, and know that they actually do have value because they're human beings, and because there's more value that a man offers to a family than just a paycheck. So I hope I am making sense. But thank you again for those of you who have logged on, who have commented. Again, if you like this content, please please subscribe, please share it. I've had a few of you guys reach out to me and say, I love your content. I wish more women knew about it. You guys are my biggest promoters right now. So if you like this stuff, if you think this would be a benefit to somebody, a sister, a friend, a daughter, please share it with them. I love to hear the people. I'd love to talk to more women and share some of these issues. Also, I will need your support in order to do this long term. We all know there's many women out there. There's many channels that are promoting ideas that are toxic. So if you want to hear more positive things, or if you want to have logical conversations, spiritual conversations, please support this channel. You can find me on Cash App. You can find me on Venmo, Shay Sade. You can also send me your